Our planet is beautiful, but it is under threat. We need to work to conserve our resources, or else we will all be extinct in the next 3 months. Many people and businesses have started to recycle. Game publishers, for instance, have started recycling old game titles. There are only so many words in the English language, but there are a metric crap ton of games. Conservation is important, or before long, we might be naming our games after really stupid things and made-up words like rabbids. Today, I'd like to celebrate one of these valiant games and compare it with its counterpart from nearly a decade before. I know that's not really fair to the old game. I mean, 10 years is a long time. That's 10 years of technological and gameplay innovations. That's 2 console generations and like 10 PC generations. So of course, just bear in mind that there's no way that the older game can hold up to the lofty standards that we hold games to today. Let's compare Star Wars Battlefront to Star Wars Battlefront. I know, it's not fair to compare Battlefront with a totally different game like Battlefront. They don't have any of the same game modes and barely any of the same concepts. But that is the point of this video, to see how far a decade of development has brought us. Already, the distinctions are apparent, just by looking at the cover art in both games. In Battlefront, we see a soldier in useless white armor, firing his gun in defiance of the explosion, clearly ripping his friends asunder behind him. He fights with his defiant last breath against the tide of defeat, hoping, dreaming of victory. Only by the skin of his teeth might he win and survive to fight in the next bloody conflict. In stark contrast, the cover of Star Wars Battlefront depicts a soldier standing in passionless recognition of his inevitable death at the hands of a cold, mechanized giant lumbering towards him. He stands there, weapon lowered, waiting and wishing for the sweet relief of death. Battlefront was created by Pandemic Studios and LucasArts, the same companies that made Full Spectrum Warrior and all those fucking adventure games, respectively. Battlefront was manufactured by EA, DICE, and Lucasfilm, the same companies that made FIFA, the Frostbite engine, and Star Wars The Phantom Menace, respectively. Already, not looking good for Battlefront, but does Battlefront really hold up? Battlefront uses a class system similar to another game with battle in the title. Each class has a distinct weapon and characteristic, including a unique appearance so everyone knows their place. Every class has its own distinct role in the battle overall. The Trooper class is supposed to die on the front lines, the Engineer class is supposed to drive the ships, the Demolition class is supposed to blow up the ships, the Sniper class is for when you want to play point-and-click adventure game. They were LucasArts' contribution to the game. The Jet Trooper class is for when you play Camino or Bespin, and the Droidica class is for when you want to go fuck yourself! It's somewhat constraining. Maybe I want to do some close-range sniping, then jetpack away. Maybe I want to not fly the vehicles, but wait for a little icon to spawn and then watch some damn camper jacket. Luckily for me, Battlefront does away with all that class bullshit in favor of a Magic the Gathering style card deck. You got your cards for laser, your other laser, your other laser, your cards for sniper, your grenade card, your slightly more powerful grenade card, your other grenade card, your jetpack, your hopes, your dreams, and inevitable disappointments, your parents and their disappointments. Anyway, back to Battlefront. In the game there are a ton of modes. You got Campaign, the other Campaign, Instant Action, and Galactic Conquest. In the campaign, you get to shoot Jar Jar, A++, but you also have to shoot Chewie, F, 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 F. I guess the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. But yeah, there's a bunch of unstoppable heroes running around and you can't play as them. That's disappointing, but to be fair, you can't play as the heroes in Battlefront either. I don't mean that it's not possible, but that they'll always go to other players. So these games are even in that respect. In terms of campaign, Battlefront doesn't have one. There are little modes that you can collect all the stars in, but they don't constitute a collective campaign, just disconnected little challenges. But this is good, don't want them fucking up the canon after all. Battlefront has 2 campaigns set in either the Galactic Civil War or the Clone Wars. You can join the forces of the Separatist, Republic, Empire, or Rebellion and fight their battles against waves of aggressive bots. You follow the plot of the movies as you move through the set pieces and claim victory for your side. In Battlefront, you can only play in the Galactic Civil War. That's the original trilogy for you plebes. The plot is thin. Actually, it's non-existent. But let's be honest, no one gives a shit about campaigns anymore, right, Call of Duty? So why even finish writing about them? This point goes to Battlefront. We all know what you're here for. Instant action! You can play any map as any of the factions except the ones where you can't for some reason. You know, I'm noticing now that Star Wars Battlefront has a lot more maps than Star Wars Battlefront does. But this is a good thing because, well, You know what? I'm not an E3 representative. I don't have to make up some crap about why less stuff is better. Anyway, in instant action, you can play in split screen mode. For those of you who have never played a split screen game before because your parents never let you have video games, or friends, or siblings, it's all the joy of learning to hate somebody over a game of Monopoly, only without the Monopoly. Or money. But for the rest of you, remember when you'd be playing a game and your little shit brother would come in asking for his turn, and then you'd beat him within an inch of his life with the game controller, but then your mom would come in a few minutes later and tell you to give him his turn? Well, in Battlefront, you can play against your younger siblings in split screen and beat them into submission in the virtual world as well. I would kick my brother's ass every day in Battlefront, but it created a strong bond between us. I remember when he was in the hospital, I went to visit him. He needed a kidney transplant. It turned out that I was a perfect match, so I brought in our old PlayStation and cut him a deal. If he could beat me in just one round of Battlefront, I would donate my kidney to him. And of course I fucking wiped the floor with that little bastard! But when Battlefront came out, I didn't have anyone to play with. The other chair was empty, so I had no way of knowing if the split screen is the same without my little brother calling me a cheater from the other chair. But honestly, who has friends in real life? You probably want to know about the online multiplayer. It's non-existent now in Battlefront, now that all the servers are gone, which is a great thing. That's just one more way I could have gotten hacked. Or one more way I could learn how many 12-year-olds have had sex with my mother. In Battlefront, though, the multiplayer is the main focus. It's, great. The graphics are a huge leap over Battlefront, and they really contribute to the overall feel of the game. After all, we all know that graphics are the only thing that matters in a video game. That's why Crysis is the greatest game of all time. Another point to Battlefront. Alright, listen, I know you didn't click on this video to hear me tell you about my family's medical history. You wanted to hear about the Galactic Conquest. This is the true strength of Battlefront, but it's where Battlefront falls a bit flat. Overall, Galactic Conquest is the greatest thing ever created for a video game. Immediate points to Battlefront. But what was Battlefront's answer to this? How could they possibly top an elaborate combination of gameplay and strategy that blends together as deliciously as peanut butter and chocolate? Well, I'll tell you how. Diorama. Each figure in this diorama corresponds to a challenge you can beat in the game. Looking at each one of these earned figures takes me back to that moment of victory. I feel such a sense of pride and accomplishment. It's absolutely brilliant. I genuinely don't know how any game could ever top this. The only way they could ever make this experience better is if they added loot boxes. But of course, this all just begs the question, which Battlefront is the best Battlefront? And the answer, as we all know, is of course Star Wars Battlefront 2. The greatest video game of all time. A++.
Again.